amazing episode of Dragon Ball Super, Vegeta decides to pull a Saitama on Frost, and Hito, the legendary Hitman, reveals his deadly powers, and Vegeta prepares to do battle with a lava-spewing living robot, Magetta. This week's episode of Dragon Ball Super was pretty damn satisfying. I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but I think this is without a doubt the best episode of the series thus far. It has the most new material. Vegeta was awesome, and so was Magetta, this living organic robot, not too dissimilar from an Autobot or Decepticon, except that it has the ability to consume lava and weaponize it in beam-like forms. This week's episode had so many cool elements to it, not just the fighting. There's also a lot of cool things going on in the background and in the story, slowly turning this into arguably the best arc from Dragon Ball Super. So I think the best place to start would be from the beginning, Vegeta versus Frost. This battle is really satisfying because of the immense build-up to it, to the fact that Vegeta's even going to allow Frost to use his hidden poison weapon. He's that confident that he's going to be able to take him down, and as soon as the battle begins, Vegeta immediately goes into his regular Super Saiyan form, and they both start to charge each other, and what does Vegeta do? He finishes off Frost in one punch, which sends him flying into the top of the barrier, and then slamming back down on top of the ground. It was so amazingly satisfying, and like I said, he pulled a Saitama. One punch. What's really funny is that Frost decides he's basically just going to skip town, and he tries to run away from the arena, and he arrives at this one crater on this planet, which has this traveling cube which belongs to Champa, and all of this treasure, which apparently whoever won on Champa's team was going to get all of this stuff, but because Frost is such an underhanded little sneaky bastard, he decides that he's just going to run away with all of this stuff, when suddenly he is confronted by Hito, the legendary Hitman. Yes, we finally get to learn a little bit more about this character. He's some sort of assassin or famous hitman from his galaxy, and he has some powers which I honestly can't even describe. I don't know what he does to Frost in this episode. I just know it's awesome. Basically, he stands in one place, and then suddenly all of the ground around him starts to crack and turn into glass, and then suddenly all of these beams of energy started exploding out of Frost's body from different parts, his head, his arms, his legs, his chest, and it looked like he was just in an extreme amount of pain, and that caused him to instantly collapse on the ground. What the hell happened here? Was this some sort of crazy psychic type attack? Some weird alien ability that only belongs to Hito's race? He's such a mysterious character, and probably the one that we're going to have to look out for the most in this arc. Probably going to be one of the main threats, might even be our hint to the next villain of the series. I just want to learn more about this guy and what he's all about. His design, like I said, is very similar to Frieza's final form, except that he doesn't have a tail. He's also very similar to the Namekian race, so maybe he is like the Namekian from that universe. Maybe that's what they look like. Maybe it's just something completely new altogether, which frankly, I would kind of like to see that. All I know is Hito is awesome. This episode really made me love his character, and I can't wait to see more of this guy in the future. Another big development that's going on here. They figured out where Goku was actually hit by Frost's attack, so because of that, he's going to be allowed back in the tournament. But he still has to go before Monaka. And this is where I'm really starting to try and figure out what the hell is going on. Beerus almost makes it seem like Monaka might not be as powerful as he's actually letting on. Either that, or they are just really trying to throw us off on what the real deal is with Monaka. I mean, is he really powerful? Is he really weak? Is he the cousin of Emperor Pilaf with big nipples? He is implied by Beerus to be a planet destroyer in this episode, so I want to imagine he is strong. I mean, he did take a punch from Goku, but then again, Goku really wasn't fully powered up. Maybe he wasn't giving it his all. Maybe he is pretty strong, but who knows? Beerus is obviously covering up something about Monaka, and I love that they're adding a little more mystery to his character. And he is, just like Hito, one of the most mysterious characters from the series, so I really cannot wait to see these guys in action. So, the big change now is there's going to be a brand new rule for the tournament, where Champa and Vados have created this brand new barrier, which is like basically this big cube or box, which is going to be around the entire arena, and if you touch the walls, you're considered out and you're going to be disqualified. This is a really shrewd move on Ciampa's part because, one, this is actually going to end up being a benefit for him, especially with his next fighter, Magetta or Magetta. I'm going to call him Magetta. What I will say is, Magetta is arguably one of the most unique opponents that I've ever seen in the entire Dragon Ball series, and I especially love when Akira Toriyama uses robot-like characters, because he goes with this just classic old-school look to them, and they're always really fun to watch those type of robots fighting against the characters from Dragon Ball. I've just always really enjoyed that. And Magetta is really awesome. His whole gimmick is that he's this living organic alien called a Metal Man. And apparently there are Metal Men in Universe 7 as well. Maybe we'll get to see more of them in the future. But basically they're living organic robots that run on lava. They literally drink it like frickin' beer. And they actually can contain it within their body, and they can use it to attack in battle. And they can use it in a number of different ways, like projectiles, powering up their attacks, making them faster, and Vegeta learns that the hard way in this episode because he really does underestimate his opponent, I think, a little bit in this episode, and he doesn't even really power up until the very end. First, he just goes at him normal style, trying to attack him by kicking him in the head, which causes this, like, massive sound wave to just emanate from his body, which just destroys the ears of everyone and presumably makes Piccolo deaf. What's really funny about this scene is that Magetta's head actually gets stuck inside of his body, and the way he gets it out is that he continuously pounds on the top of his head and then literally pulls it out, but this actually starts to pump him up. All of this fire starts to spout out of his head with an amazing train sound effect to go along with that, and then he starts to get a little faster against Vegeta, starting to put him against the wall a little bit, and then Vegeta jumps up in the air, goes Super Saiyan, and decides to just hit him with a number of ki blasts. And has that ever worked in the Dragon Ball series when someone just does like continuous machine gun shot style attacks? It almost never works for any characters. The only ones that really come to mind is probably the scene with Frieza when he was blasting Piccolo on Planet Namek. That's the only time I've ever really seen it be all that effective, and Magetta actually manages to attack back by spewing his lava up into the air, increasing the intensity and power of it, and then it basically just turns into this like massive explosive flamethrower that he just uses to follow Vegeta around the ring, and he has to risk not only dodging this, but actually hitting the walls at the same time. But there's also another risk, because all of this lava is contained within this space. The room is starting to get really hot, to a point where Vegeta might not actually be able to even function or fight while in here. Obviously, this was a ploy by Ciampa, and it looks like it's going to work really well. The next episode looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to have some great animation, and that's something worth mentioning. The animation and artwork in this episode was a lot better than some of the stuff that I've seen from the last couple of weeks, and I really appreciate that. Lots of impact behind the attacks, and really, that's what I want to see at the end of the day. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? Just an amazingly satisfying episode, especially Vegeta at the very beginning just taking out Frost in one hit. That was really fantastic. I loved the effect of when Frost was hit too, all the slow moments where he would back up each time as he was getting hit by the impact of the punch, where he immediately just slammed right into the arena that Ciampa and his team was actually sitting in, and then he hit the ceiling, and then he came back down. That was just really fantastic. And of course, the introduction of Hito the legendary Hitman, just such a cool character. What an amazing design. Might be the next big villain of the series. I'm really interested to learn a lot about this guy. I've been hearing some crazy theories about him all over the internet, all of these discussions that I've seen. One of them that I think is pretty interesting that I was reading is that some people believe that he's actually a god of destruction from another universe that's infiltrated this tournament, and basically he's trying to do something all crazy and evil. But then again, he's also got this alias as the legendary Hitman, and he's powerful enough to take on Frost, who in that universe is probably a pretty big player. So that really speaks a lot for Hito's power and where he's going to be coming from in the battle. The stuff with Monaka, too, is really interesting. I can't wait to see, honestly, if he's as powerful as Beerus is letting on, if he actually literally will power up into a completely different form. Maybe he's just nothing all that special, and this is all just a big joke leading up to Universe 7 actually losing the tournament, which I think would be a hilarious twist, because then they would be in an entirely different universe, which means an excuse for lots of new adventures and going up against the villains of that universe, such as Hito. Maybe that's actually where this is going. Just, there's a lot of great speculation from that. Another thing that I liked about this episode was frankly just the style of the episode. There's a lot of things in this episode that were really unique to it and felt new to me. Like, I loved when Magetta actually decided to jump into the ring, and when he did so, he's so heavy that it actually lifts up into the air and then finally levels back. I thought that was a cool entrance. I also love the look of when he's spewing his fire all over the place and Vegeta's in midair, all of the embers which are sort of slowly falling all over the battlefield. Just a real distinctive and fun look. And there were also just some weird funny moments in this episode, like the scene where Elder Kai spit his dentures out at Kibito's face. Just, you know, weird. So it may come as no surprise, but I loved this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super. I want more episodes like this with good production value, lots of interesting twists and turns, and more of these crazy, ridiculous fighters. This is turning into one legendary arc of Dragon Ball, one that I will remember for some time. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the rest of these episodes, and this was just an exciting episode in general with some pretty decent production value behind it. So I love this one. It certainly is flawed in some places, like the animation and artwork could look better at times, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of watching this. I laughed, I got excited, I loved the action scenes, so I'm going to give this one right here a 5 out of 5. As a classic Dragon Ball fan, this is exactly what I'm looking for from the series. So I love this episode, but I want to hear from you guys. Did you watch this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? Did you have a favorite moment? What did you think of the battle between Vegeta and Frost? And what's the deal with Monako? What do you think is up with him? Is he really that strong? Is he really weak? Is there another twist to the character? And what do you think of Hito, the legendary Hitman? And what do you want to see from the rest of Dragon Ball Super? You can tell me in the comment section below. Did I ever tell you guys that you are awesome? Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to share it with all of your friends, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you would like to. That way you could see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. Check us out on social media, all in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.